Hello and welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly Podcast. I'm Javen, your host today.
Yep. And I'm Guff.
Today we're going to be talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition, what we like about it. We've been playing it for quite a while now. We have two perspectives, one from me as a player and one from Guff as a DM.
Yes.
GM, sorry.
Get it right, nerd.
I got to get it right, nerd. Anyways,
Right.
We'll dive right in. First thing we want to talk about is character creation. There's multiple ways to do it. By the book, I've done it. By the book, I've done it where we roll for stats. Cool thing is the different ancestries. There's a lot of different ancestries in Pathfinder. Everything from goblins that you don't normally see in other systems. And we've just been playing with the core book, mind you, for now. And there's a plethora of things that you can do for ancestries in the core book, even.
Yeah, I'm not a lot of help with the creating character. I do know there's a lot of. I think there's 10 ancestries maybe, but each like humans have 6 or 7 variants. And elves and dwarves all have variants.
Yep.
Goblins and things have their variants also, which seems to be fairly robust. That's just the core rulebook, mind you. There's many other books that had tons of extra stuff, extra ancestries. Ancestries would be for old people races.
Yeah. For the older gamers.
Yeah.
Like I know, for example, in our group we have 2 goblins, 2 gnomes, but they feel very different, both of them,
Right.
and they're different ancestries.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely, or they're different sub ancestries, or however you want to call it. So they're pretty cool that way.
Yeah, even humans that you guys had, like I know we have the champion. I think is a human, and then you know you're a half orc now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a half orc.
But even your humans were different. Like they played. We've lost players, but even the first humans were different than the second humans, just based off of their ancestry paths they took and their different sides. And it's really cool. I kind of like it a lot. I like the robustness just the difference that it feels. And that's just from a DM's perspective. I kind of got sick of a lot of the other systems, and nothing in particular, but they're very narrow on their races or ancestries. For this one, it's just like, man, I'm kind of excited when somebody rolls a new character up because I don't know what they're throwing at me.
That's true, yeah. And the nice thing is there's a plethora in the core book.
Yeah, we're just core book.
Yeah, you don't even have to go through expansions. If you get to the expansions, there's so many different ancestries.
A little overwhelming as a DM for me. It would be overwhelming. Now my next campaign that I start, I'll let my players pick from some other books just to give them a chance to venture outside the core rule book. But it'll be kind of crazy. It's okay though.
And the way we were playing was kind of well, we'll get into that later. Let's talk about backgrounds. There's a plethora of backgrounds as well as I lost count of how many backgrounds there were.
Yeah,
and
no idea.
Every module you run will have more backgrounds with it too. We'll talk about the module we're running later.
Right. Yeah, if you don't like the backgrounds that they have in the core rule book, all the expansions have backgrounds. Most of the Venture Pass have backgrounds. And then if that's just not enough, I was just reading through the Game Mastery Guide, and they have a custom background generator where you just basically roll on a chart, and you just roll off of probably 10 or 15 different charts, and you just make your whole background up that way.
Nice.
Which is pretty wild.
Hand in hand with backgrounds, in Ancestors, we go into classes now. Classes, there's any class you can imagine, essentially, in the core book.
Yeah. That might be... I don't remember how many.
I think there was 10 classes.
That could be 10, yeah. That's just in the core rule book.
Yeah. You have sorcerers, you have wizards, you have fighters, you have alchemists. Alchemists is really cool. We have one of those in our campaign, and they felt kind of weak at earlier level.
Yeah.
But they got a little bit stronger later on as you went along.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, they did. They felt like they were going to be a little underpowered just because they were doing 1d4 damage, and then it was only if it hit directly, and then it was a 1 splash damage. And now that he's getting a little higher level, you can see the utility popping up. and it gets to be quite interesting.
Yeah. There's also he's playing the bomber archetype
Yeah.
for
Like
alchemist.
The
There's also like a Dr. Jackal, Mr. Hyde, mutagenist alchemist. That's really cool.
Yep. I think there's a surgeon one, or
I think
is that what it's called?
chirurgeon.
Chirurgeon, well, however you
Use
pronounce
alchemy
that.
for medical purposes and
Yeah,
stuff
you
like
throw
that.
like heal potions at people and stuff.
Yep. We have barbarian as well.
Dude, who's the barbarian?
Well, we had a barbarian.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. He met a.
I will say the barbarian, when I was playing him, he felt pretty good. There's a lot of your characters have what's called anathemas, and it's things that are like you can't do.
Oh, gotcha.
So there's kind of restrictions on your characters, like morals and stuff like that.
Right.
And you could pick different ones based on what subclass you go. We have a bard now.
Yep. It's short term as he's been so far.
Yeah. He kind of got hurt in the first session pretty good. In his first session.
Yeah, I will say Pathfinder's character classes and their races and their ability to mix and mingle them have seemed to be pretty smooth and seamless. I kind of enjoyed that part. Just as from a DM, I've never actually made a character other than just a couple practice characters just to play, just to see what you guys go through when you're making characters.
Yep.
Because all my stats are already filled out for me.
Yep. We have a champion in the party, which is the equivalent of like a paladin in other systems.
Yeah.
They are strong fighters. They have some pretty cool abilities to protect allies.
Yeah, I like they can throw shield up and block damage from some allies, and they trip and they can. I don't know. They kind of like reminds me of the 5th Ed Battlemaster mixed with a paladin, where they got the extra moves but it's all built into the champion. It's just their normal.
Yep, and there's tons of feats to choose for each of the classes. So even if you have 2 champions, you're gonna have 2 very different characters.
Yeah. Not only the class, but you can choose from your ancestry has its own line of feats.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're having 2 champions in the game and they're both, say one's a half orc and one's a human, which are both human ancestry, mind you, but they all have different feats they can choose from, and then you have 2 different, 3 different, 4 different lines of champion you can choose from. Mm-hmm. It's quite insane.
Moving forward, we have clerics.
Yeah.
We have a healing cleric in the party, and she gets an immense amount of healing spells.
Which I've appreciated. I thought at first, we played through the starter set, and it seemed overwhelming, but now that the priest has kind of grown into her own, or the cleric, she's kind of keeping up with the group pretty well as far as heals, and like you need it though. There's no quick 8-hour rest.
Yeah,
full heals.
There's no simple healing like that in this game.
It's all complicated healing and costs you money and time.
Yeah. Druid, we played a druid in a one-shot. I ended up playing one in the one-shot.
Nice.
They were really fun. They have some minimal animal shifting at the beginning where you can turn into like small vermin.
Right.
Or you can grow like claws right away and attack with claws and bite people.
That's good, because I know there's a lot of, just from reading through the books, there's a lot of like potions and ruins and items that give you extra damage based off of your melee attack with claws. And I'm like, who the heck has melee claw attacks? Yeah. Oh, the druids. Gotcha.
Yep. I'm playing a fighter right now in the main campaign that we're doing. Yep. Fighters feel really good. They're very tanky, very hardy. They hit like trucks.
And they can take the damage too.
And they can take a lot of damage as well with the reactive shield abilities and things like that.
And they're the only ones that really get attack of opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, which is interesting. As a DM, it's nice to know that there's only 1 or 2 classes that can really use that on a regular basis.
And it feels powerful when you do use it.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it definitely feels powerful because it's a major game changer for that fighter if he can take a free whack at somebody, and if he has something that has deadly and does extra crits, and it just
we've experienced that in our game. Next off, monk. We don't have any monks in our campaign. I don't know a whole lot about them. But reading through the book, there's some pretty cool different archetypes.
Yep.
There's like the Bruce Lee style monks where you're just punching people all out, and
Right.
there's
There must be a weapon monk where they use the commas and the size.
like a kensei or something like that. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just know there's a lot of weapons for them. So
We had a ranger in the party as well. That was the next one.
felt a little underwhelming initially.
Yeah, so range.
I wonder if it's a
We can get into that a little bit. Yeah. But they have like animal companion rangers. They have archers class rangers. We had a 2-weapon fighting one.
Yep.
It was good for the party while it lasted. The barbarian and the ranger we were playing were actually twin brothers, and they both ended up dying in the same, not in the same encounter, but the same set of encounters.
Right.
After that, we have rogue. We had a rogue in the starter module that we played.
Yeah, beginner box. Yep.
You can build rogues in many different ways, just to be a thief, to be a fighter, almost. To have
I think
backstabbing.
rogue will be the hidden gem. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I think that nobody's playing a rogue right now in the main campaign, but I think in the long term, just from reading through and watching videos, and I think the rogue is the secret weapon.
It could be, yeah. Well, if another player passes or anything like that, we can always try to play up a rogue. Hopefully, one of the non-tanks goes next time.
Yeah, that would be nice to see a sorcerer or something else go for a bit.
Oh, we do have a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Moving on to sorcerer, he feels really strong. Lots of utility spells, lots of ability to modify your spells.
Yep.
Which is really cool. You can take touch attacks and turn them into range attacks.
Yeah, and they dual attacks. It was crazy.
Yeah, and there's different archetypes. Like there's like Fey touched. There's demon blooded. Pretty much any flavor of sorcery you can imagine you can get. The last one we have here is wizard.
Pretty standard. Grab a book, memorize some spells, throw them at you, and kill you.
Yep, pretty straightforward with wizard. It feels very arcane. I don't think we've had a wizard yet.
No, not yet.
But there's like conjurers. There are illusionists. Pretty much your general whatever you can think of for wizards you can have. Multi-classing is a thing as well. We haven't dabbled in it a whole lot. We was kind of sticking to the main.
I think multi-classing is going to be a little more complicated and less rewarding than it would be in some other systems.
Yeah, it's tough to tell. We haven't really messed with it.
Well, that's just from reading through the book and reading through the game mastery guides and watching videos on it.
Kind of a mile wide, inch deep.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just there's not enough excitement in it for. I think if you do it right, it probably works fine. But I think most people aren't gonna get that hardcore into it and really want to play that fighter rogue and take the negatives that come with it and the positives.
Yeah, because you can always take your rogue and build them like a fighter, or take your fighter and build them like a rogue.
You don't need multi-class and dual class or whatever they call it.
There's enough leeway with how you're building your characters. I think that's enough for character creation for now. So let's talk about combat a little bit.
Combat's probably one of my favorite parts in the system. It does get kind of boggy in my mind, but we've ran, I'm not even sure how many different encounters now from the beginner box to where we're at now in the adventure series. And I'm not sure any two have had the same combat. It's not like you're grinding the same fight over and over and over.
Yeah, this kind of goes into bestiary too, but it feels like every monster we're fighting is different. There's different abilities to deal with, be it good damage, evil damage, chaotic damage. There's a lot of cool different things that way. The core guts of the combat is you get 3 actions. And it can be 3 attacks, it can be 3 moves, it can be whatever the heck you want it to be. And the action economy feels very rewarding as a player. It doesn't feel like, I've done a standard action, a bonus action, and a move action.
Right.
You can kind of do whatever the heck you need to do for the situation.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge bonus.
The standard that I do as a fighter is I take a move action, typically, I take an attack, and I raise my shield. Raising your shield is actually an action in this game. And then
Yeah, it saves your butt though.
Yeah, your shields actually deflect damage as well as giving you a armor class bonus in this game. The only gripe with combat is it feels a little bit bloated. Like you were saying, it's boggy a little
It
bit.
gets a little bogged down because it's just so much going on.
Yeah, and it can take a while, but the more we've played, the quicker we've gotten at it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the more, and I think the higher level we get, like it's just there's always something new being thrown at you, at the players, and so when the players are getting in, they see a bunch of street thugs, and this street thug just happened to be, a different name than the group before. Well, these street thugs have different abilities than the first group do, and so you guys have to wait until you see what their abilities are before you can start reacting to how to deal with it. And so I think that part bogs it down a little bit. Maybe it's just meta gaming player knowledge. They just don't have the knowledge of the monsters in the bestiary, and as a DM, everything's new. Like I have to look up abilities constantly because every time I throw a new monster, there's a whole new set of abilities to look at. And I mean, I like that. Don't get me wrong. And I think it keeps you guys from overwhelming me by just mowing everything down easily. Because I don't think Pathfinder is geared that way. I think it's almost impossible to just mow everything down easily.
It does feel pretty grindy too, though.
Yeah.
I'll play the devil's advocate here a little bit. It feels grindy and it feels clunky at first.
Right.
But once you get it down, it's not that bad.
Yeah, you gotta take. Yeah,
you gotta have good math skills.
Yeah,
because the numbers get
a little ridiculous. The plus 14s at fourth level, then the plus 20s at fifth level, and all of a sudden you have 31 AC, and you're like,
how am I supposed to hit this?
How am I supposed to hit that? Well, you get plus 14, so I mean,
with the striking runes and the +1 weapon that I have, I'm at a plus 14 to hit as a fighter at fourth level, which is ridiculous.
A lot of big numbers. So
make sure you bring your calculators or bring your buddy who's good at math.
Get some flashcards to start memorizing quick math problems. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
I don't like that part, honestly. It makes me feel like it's an old school like MMO RPG where they used to just the higher level you get, pretty soon you're 100,000 damage. I mean, it's almost what it feels like. It's scaling so quick that I think by the time we hit level 15 or 20 or whatever we're supposed to get to by then, we're going to have like plus 50 on things. That's just dumb. In my opinion, that's just dumb and I don't like it, but I'm not going to go through and try and scale everything down. I'll just go with it.
Yeah, it's play as intended, which is what we're trying to do. We're really trying to play core book and play as intended.
Yeah.
To get a feel for the system, to see we're stress testing the core system essentially. Is what we've been doing.
Well, honestly, we're just looking for another fantasy game that we can play in house, teach everybody how to play. That way, if new DMs or whatever want to come in and play, we already have all the stuff for it to do, and most people know how to play it already.
Yeah, and it's a nice I'm not going to call it a refreshing break from the norm. But it's definitely something different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The other thing is...
it's still fantasy. It's still high fantasy, and you still have lots of magic. And so if you want something completely different, you have to go to a indie system mostly.
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about for combat is spells.
Oh, yeah.
There's a really cool system for spells where you can usually overcharge your spells by using more actions.
Yeah.
So, for example, the heal spell... With one action, it heals 1d8 damage.
Yeah.
At 2 actions, it heals 1d8 plus 8 at a range of up to 30 feet.
Up to one person.
Yep. Up to one person. And then at max 3 actions, it heals in a 30-foot radius. Every living creature heals 1d8, including enemies.
Yeah, so if it's undead in that area, they're actually taking damage while you're healing your friends. I tell you what. When we started playing the beginner set, and you were playing the priest, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought, man, how can I not love the spells in the system?
Yeah.
In Magic Missile, you can just cast one, or you can cast 3 at 3 different items. You don't have to blow all of it on one dude. You can just, I'll just do this, and then I'll run, and then I'll cast my second version. My second arrow off of it.
Yeah, my only problem with it in the headcanon is I'm so ingrained in casting one spell a turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's so weird to be able to pull off 2 spells in a round.
Yeah, no, I love it personally because I know from playing second and basic and first and even some of the other systems out there. That's basically what you get, like you said. You just get one and you're done.
Yeah.
Like you cast your spell and you hide because you're a wizard and you're fragile. Not so much in this one.
The last thing I want to talk about in this first part
Yep.
is the conditions in combat.
Oh, jeez.
And there are so many conditions.
Maybe too many. I don't know.
It might be too many.
It might be the bogging down thing again. Maybe that's where it feels is like, maybe, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to remember.
When you first start, it's very, very
overwhelming.
Daunting.
Yeah.
There's frightened conditions, there's stunned conditions, there's poisoned, there's
sickened,
and each one of them has a different effect. Be it minus to your AC, flat-footed, minus to your ACs.
Can't drink a potion because
you're sick. You have to spend your turn vomiting so that you can become unsick.
Like, that's crazy.
They get pretty in depth.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes the combats feel. It makes every monster and every combat feel unique.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just get frightened one and go, oh, well, no big deal. You have to actually pay attention to that because those little numbers, we're talking about how many big numbers, but it's the little numbers that add up to make huge differences in combat.
Yep. Having a monster that's weakened to all of a sudden now it's two less to hit. Well, with a +2 to your AC from a shield, that's a 4 point
That's
swing.
a pretty big difference.
And on a die 20 system, that's a 20% increase.
Yeah.
But I think that's good for now. This is the part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.
Okay.
Part 2 will be covering more of the setting, the exploration, bestiary, and we'll talk a little bit about the module that we're running. So stay tuned for that, and we'll catch you next time.
Excellent. Later.